HJ Res 577, Joint Resolution, to authorize and request the President to proclaim the month of November 1990 and thereafter as Native American Indian Heritage Month. Whereas Native American Indians were the original inhabitants of the lands that now constitute the United States of America. Whereas Native American Indians have made an essential and unique contribution to our nation, not the least of which is the contribution of most of the land, which now comprises these United States. Whereas Native American Indians have made essential contributions to the world, including prehistoric cultivation and harvesting of corn and sweet potatoes. Whereas the people of the United States should be reminded of the assistance given to the early European visitors to North America by the ancestors of today's Native American Indians, including knowledge and training provided to the pilgrims in survival, hunting and cultivation, and fertilization of indigenous crops. Whereas the people and government of the United States should be reminded of the assistance given to this country's founding fathers by the ancestors of today's Native American Indians, including the support the original inhabitants provided to George Washington and his troops during the winter of 1777 to 1778, which they spent in Valley Forge. Blah, blah, fucking blah. I'm Acadia Einstein, and this is Strangeful Things.
Sheltering in place is not advised. Your survival cannot be ensured in that scenario.
Love has practically caused me to just get you destroyed.
Unsolved, unresolved, and super complicated.
Strangeful Things.
Hey, Shuey.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. Everybody, this is Strangeful Things.
That was a fun open.
Yep, and don't worry, this is a Strangeful Thing. It's not gonna just be me yelling at things, but it will be a lot of that. But we cover, we here on Strangeful Things cover true crime and monsters and ghosts and aliens and fascinating historical facts
of terrible things, usually.
But this one is not really so terrible. And so
good.
Since November is well, wait, before we get there. New and good. What do you got?
New and good. I haven't had a ton of new and good because I don't want to just talk about my house or my family or football.
Well, what were you doing just before we recorded?
That's what I was going to say. Forza Horizon 5 for the Xbox Series X is out, and it is the most gorgeous fucking thing I've ever seen. Like, you drive through fucking sandstorms and you see like the dust accumulating on the car. Like, it's that like fucking nuts.
I mean, I would be able to see it a lot better than you because I suck at racing games, so I would be going a lot slower and be able to take things
just
in.
Crashing and getting a lot of stills time.
That whole I got to turn left. Oh, that's too much left. Now I better turn right. Oh, now I got to go left again. Oh,
what I love is it has a setting where you can make damage just cosmetic. So the car looks like it's banged to shit, but it still drives fine.
Oh, so like the Dukes of Hazzard.
So I'm driving like cutting through, like on The Simpsons when they go into Cape Fear, and he's like, "Who wants to drive through the cactus patch?" And they're like, "Yeah." And Sideshow Bob's like, "No, you get to drive through all of those."
I forgot about that.
It's awesome. It's fun.
Cue a million people going, The Simpsons sucks now. It's only good when
it hasn't been good since season 4.
I actually saw an article the other day that said there are now officially more bad than good Simpsons episodes. Shut the fuck up.
Shut up.
Seriously, here's how you separate the Simpsons. Not for when it was good and when it was bad. It was
Right.
when Phil Hartman was alive and when Phil Hartman was dead. That's the only way you split it, because
and what was that, like season 7 or 6?
it was way too early, that's for sure.
It was definitely too early.
My new and good is that I have a new podcast buddy, and
do you now?
Yep. I mean, it's not a better buddy than you, but
is it special? Is it a special relationship with this other buddy?
It's pretty special. It's
I've never heard about this guy before.
No, because it's new. It's new love. It's called Bob's Mess Podcast. New? It's Bob's Mess Podcast, and now I am declaring them the sponsor of this week's show. You can find them on iTunes.
Look at that.
And it's a horror podcast, and so I'm very glad that I met them, and they're very kind.
So is there anything? Oh, you met them?
Well, no, not in real life. I mean, I internet met them.
All right. Is there anything in particular that you like about them, or what sets them apart or makes them?
One of the people on it. Here's why. And so I made an incredibly fucking obscure tweet that was really, like many of my tweets, I knew that the only person that was going to read it was me, because I assume that people have a way
Isn't that what tweets are for regular people.
Well, that's
a way to vent.
So I started thinking about Kiss, the band, and so I was looking up shit on YouTube, because of course I was.
You thinking about Christine 16 again?
No, I was not thinking about that at all. Well, kind of I was, because so the point of it is, in 1979, Kiss, when they were still all together, this was before they kicked Peter Criss out. They went on.
Was this before or after they did Kiss Meets Phantom of the Park?
This was after.
Oh, okay.
Definitely after. Because that was earlier in their reign. This was 79, and they were on Tom Snyder's Tomorrow Show.
Tom Snyder.
And
there's a hep cat.
So you can find it on YouTube. Look it up. And Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley too, but Gene Simmons mostly was so mad the entire fucking show. It started off on the wrong foot, because Tom Snyder introduced him as the bass player, which. But how do you not know it's like, how do you get a TV show in any fucking capacity without knowing that it's bass when referring to music?
Well, I think it's a matter of just, you could tell how arrogant the guy was. Like you wouldn't. I don't think that's a word you would just assume. Although if you don't know what it is, wouldn't you be like, what's a bass?
Why would you play a large fish? This? And I didn't notice it when I was listening.
Is it a big mouth or a little mouth or a stripe?
When I was listening to your disco album Dynasty. Anyway, so he was mad about that. He was mad about that, and he was also mad about the fact that Ace Frehley was shit-faced.
Oh, really?
Did
they do the interview in makeup?
Oh yeah, 100%. Not only in makeup, but they weren't even in Dress to Kill, where they wore makeup and suits. They were in their full
so he
armor.
Gene Simmons had his 8-foot boots on and all that shit.
And so Ace was drunk, but fun drunk. He was right. He wasn't. You've seen drunk people that are awful. But Ace wasn't like that at all. So anyway, I made this tweet that I knew nobody was going to fucking pay any attention to, except for one of the folks from the podcast, my new podcast friends,
right?
Bob's Mess Podcast, who replied. I think he was more mad that Ace was going to go over the line on TV. If you saw it, you know what I'm talking about, which I did. But Paul and Jean were miffed that Ace was drunk and that Peter didn't spout the company line, which was 100%. She was dead on. But the fact that A, she knew what I was talking about, and B, had fucking actual thoughts about the whole thing was just the most metal thing in the world. So we got to talking.
Awesome.
And anyway, so that's my new and good.
That is
also,
swell.
you can look that shit up on YouTube and laugh. Also, I hate Gene Simmons. Hate him.
All right, then. I did watch his reality show.
Ugh, fucker.
I know.
November is Native American Heritage Month. Now, since I just read the official fucking proclamation that made it so, you will notice that they have, since 1990, dropped the word Indian out of it. Like if you go to senate.gov now, it takes that out. But it was there in the original bill.
Goodness.
Which I read to
only
you
30 years ago.
And
from only 30 years ago.
Why did they do it? Well, it might have had a little something to do with the fact that 2 years after that was going to be the 500th anniversary of Columbus. And they were like, well, fuck, we've had quite a while to think about this. Maybe we should do a half-ass gesture like we always do. So,
yeah, this one doesn't even get like the commercials that like Black History Month or this one doesn't get like the big press that the other months do.
The best thing happening involving Native Americans right now is you got to find the guy on TikTok. He's a Native American that every single time a white person starts fucking with him, he makes a video about him and starts it out, hey, colonizer. And it fucking chafes their asses so hard. Oh, it's fucking epic. So,
that's awesome.
I thought that since it's Native American Heritage Month, it would be good to do stories surrounding Native Americans, but not ones that our listeners would, immediately expect. Like, I'm not going to go up, at least at first, go for the most horrible fucking things I can find. You know what I mean? Like, because I mean, I understand what our show is, and I understand why people would think that, but I'm not doing that, at least right off the bat.
Unless you have to.
I want to do something that will hopefully be new to most of the listeners. And I also want to take a little side trip to shit on the History Channel while I'm doing it.
Nice.
Because as I ranted to you, I think in WhatsApp, the only good thing... No, it wasn't you that I was ranting to. Well, then I'll tell you what I told them. I don't get history anymore.
Maybe you ranting to your new podcast friends.
No, that's too soon for that. I can't expose my tender underbelly.
You're not taking them to the
like
airport
that.
yet?
No. Since we have YouTube TV, we don't get the History Channel, which is fine because the only good show is Forged in Fire and maybe The Curse of Oak Island, because watching those fucking dum-dums pop boners about swamps and holes and 10X and, could Marty Lagina have found his own wallet in the bottom of the fucking treasure hole?
Well, you don't like watching The Men Who Made America?
Oh, fuck. No. When I get into the show that I'm going to talk about, when I'm talking about the thing that the show is actually about, which, hey, we're at 15 minutes, give or take. So I'm doing
given
pretty
a
good
hint to it, other than that it involves Native Americans.
So, I mean, Down East Dickering was a good show. Fake as fuck, but the people were from Maine and it was real. Like, they were really from Maine.
Yeah.
Anyways, I started to watch their show about the Serpent Mound, and I got annoyed fucking instantly. But before I can tell you why I was so annoyed, I have to explain the Serpent Mound.
What a Serpent Mound is?
Yes. It's not okay. So you can say it's a Serpent Mound, but it's also the Serpent Mound. let me start. I'll give you the tourist eye view by reading the brown plaque that the government put up at the site.
Okay. Those are always
This is in
informative.
Southern Ohio, Peebles, Ohio. One of North America's most spectacular effigy mounds, Serpent Mound is a gigantic earthen sculpture representative of a snake. Built on a spur of rock overlooking Ohio Brush Creek around 1000 AD by the Fort Ancient Culture, asterisk, the earthwork was likely a place of ceremonies dedicated to a powerful serpent spirit. The site is located on the edge of a massive crater, possibly formed by the impact of a small asteroid around 300 million years ago. Frederick Ward Putman studied Serpent Mound between 1886 and 1889. Due largely to his efforts, Serpent Mound became the first privately funded archaeological preserve in the United States. Now, I pretty much go by brown plaques. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I trust them.
I don't assign propaganda to brown plaques, except this is not a national brown plaque.
Is this an Ohio plaque?
But kind of so it was the Ohio Historical Society that put that up there. And so they call it one of North America's most spectacular effigy mounds. Whereas on their website, they call it the world's most spectacular effigy mound.
Wow. They got different people doing those.
I don't know why spectacular is the only go-to adjective when
the
discussing
only adjective they know.
Fucking effigy mounds. But I guess, I mean, so what is it? Like, what actually is it? There'll be, I mean, there was a picture in the thumbnail. We'll put a big
moundiest.
We'll put a picture in the notes of the show as well, and it's going to be in the thumbnail. But you just look up Serpent Mound. There's going to be a million pictures of it. It's 1,348 feet long. Like, it's no
That's a lot of feet.
Fucking joke. It's long, and it is a hill.
It's like a quarter mile.
Yeah, it's a hill that's the shape of a snake, but like a coiling, say, like a fucking swoopy snake. It's not coiled up like the "Don't Tread on Me" one, and it's not just like a stick with a head. It's
kind of like that one that was cut into pieces. That's another colonial thing where they cut it in pieces.
We gotta, if we're not together, we'll be a chopped up snake.
This one's got a neat head on it and stuff too, though.
That's got significance. So it winds back and forth,
and a nice curly tail.
Sometimes it's only like a foot high, and sometimes it's 3 feet high, but it's wide. It's like 20 to 25 feet wide as it winds along. And as you said, the tail is all coiled up. And then on the opposite end of the tail, because obviously whoever built it knew how snakes worked, there is the mouth. And the mouth is open. And then in the mouth, but not, well, between its jaws, but not touching them, is a big oval.
Right.
And so we're going to talk about what people think that is as well. Because what we're dealing with is a thing that is it's a mound. It's not a thing that you can generally figure out how old the dirt is, because generally the age is going to be roughly the age of the other dirt. You know, it's not like when they did.
Oh, yeah. It's not like I know what you're saying. You can't carbon date the dirt. It's the same fucking dirt.
Right. You can't. It's hard to do. However, and there's no artifacts around Serpent Mound.
So there's just this mound.
Yes. And they think that, and that's why I said asterisk when they said 1000 AD.
Right.
That's one thought. It could be.
Yeah, because without anything else that they have, I don't know. I wouldn't know what else they could be going off of if there were no other.
So they there was some charcoal that they carbon dated because charcoal is literally carbon. So one thing said the Serpent Mound is more than 2,000 years old, which would imply that it was created by the Adena culture, and because the Adena culture was who was around at that time.
Right.
It's not like there were not other effigy mounds. Like there's none near.
What is an effigy mound?
So an effigy mound is, I don't want to sound reductive. It's a pile of dirt in the shape of something other than a pile of dirt. Like if you think of it as you made a cookie that looked like a bear and you put it on the ground and it was big and it was made of dirt. That would be a mound shaped like a bear. There's your effigy mound. Could be of anything.
Right.
Now, the Nazca lines are not in Peru, which we've never done, but we could. The Nazca lines are not effigy mounds, even though they are on the ground and they're the shape of animals and stuff, because they're what's known as geoglyphs, and geoglyphs are created by taking stuff away. Like if you had a really when you write "wash me" on the back of somebody's car, that's kind of the same as making a geoglyph on a much smaller scale. So there's a lot more work involved in making an effigy mound, because unless you already had a fucking mound of dirt that happened to be the exact shape of, I don't know, a fish or some shit like that, then you had to fucking put some muscle into it. The other piece of it that is interesting is that they found carbon that was 2,000 years old, but then there's other people that say, okay, well, it was only, 1,000 years ago. But that doesn't mean it wasn't there when the 1,000-year-old people, the 1,000-year ago people got there.
Right.
And they were like, hey, you know what? This thing has seen better days. So today on Flip It, we're going to really fix up this effigy mound.
Snakes. Let's fix this thing up.
Exactly. Yeah. So overall, at the end of the day, it's a really, really neat relic. I mean, relic isn't really the right word, but it's evidence that people at least 1,000 years ago had shit going on, and somebody thought that it would be a good idea to make this thing. Now, and we're going to get into all the stuff that's going to fucking enrage me, but for now, I'm just going to say that at its core, they made a mound of dirt that looked like a snake. And they didn't fuck it up. Or maybe they did it first and someone else came along and fixed it, because, again, mound of dirt, not like, now there's grass over it and it's all nice and everything now, but I have to assume when they built it, they weren't fucking laying sod. Maybe they were. I don't know.
Laying sod.
But the point is, it meant enough to people to do it. And there are, and effigy mounds are a particularly indigenous North American thing. It's not to say that they don't exist elsewhere. There's one in Scotland. There's some, but it's mainly kind of in the Midwest of America, of what is now America. where these things are made. And a lot of them got wrecked because of erosion, and a lot of them, like, if you didn't know what it was, you were walking around and say, oh, I gotta plant my potatoes. Oh, this fucking thing's in my way. I'm gonna dig it up. Oh no, it was a squirrel. Like they wouldn't fucking know because no one cared,
Yeah.
and still no one cares for the most part.
And plus, you kind of have to see it from above to actually know what the fuck it is.
But so we're gonna get to that too. So I'm physically trying to swallow my rage at the moment. We're just going to talk about.
Seems to be going well.
We're going to talk about what's been called the egg, the thing in the snake's mouth. So everybody that studies it figures it must have some spiritual, significance.
Right.
Even on the plaque, it said likely a place of ceremonies dedicated to a powerful serpent spirit. Which, I mean, the feathered serpent was a known deity.
Yeah.
In that area, at least 1,000 years ago and older, which doesn't necessarily mean that this was that, because there's no feathers on it. But also, and this is, how do I be delicate about this? Religious shit that indigenous people believed is just as dumb as religious shit that people now believe. I 100% support everybody's right to believe it, and I will call them dumb. The fact is that you're not going to tell me that in every fucking society, no matter when it was, there wasn't somebody going, that doesn't seem right. I don't think there's a big snake that's going to eat.
Has anybody seen this giant snake?
Yeah, exactly.
I haven't seen it.
Like, we have this fucking terrible fucking idea that everybody was just so dumb that they just went along with it. You know what I mean? And the only smart guy in the whole group, no matter what group it is all across the fucking planet, was the guy that went, oh no, I talked to God and he told me what to do. Like,
exactly.
Those people are the ones that they should have gotten rid of first. You know what I mean? Like, it's
oh yeah,
fucking Larry
that's
over
what
there
always
saying
happens though. That's what's happened for thousands of years.
So
thousands of years.
Is it the other significant thing? Some people think that the egg wasn't actually an egg. They think it might have been a platform where they performed ceremonies or rituals or something, and the middle part washed away and the outside part stayed. You know what I mean? Like, that might be a reach, but whatever. The fact is, nobody fucking knows, and we killed everybody that we could have asked. So fuck us, we're never going to know. But the cool thing about it, and this is going to send me on a little brief Graham fucking Hancock tangent, is that the head and the egg just happen to point right to where the fucking sun sets on the summer solstice. So, of course, everybody on the History Channel has got to fucking produce quarts of jizz about the fact that, oh, it's astronomically significant. They aimed this to the fucking blah, blah, blah. How did they do it? Well, I don't know. Let's think about it, shall we, History Channel? They were humans. They could observe stuff. Yep. They could remember stuff.
They had brains.
They weren't chickens that went to sleep as soon as it got dark. And when you're done fucking, which was your only leisure time activity, all you could do was look up at the sky. So if you do that long enough, you're going to notice patterns. And also, they had infinity time. Because if you made it to like 20, you were kind of set. That's the other, and we've talked about it on the show a million times. The life expectancy wasn't because everybody fucking died when they were 30. It's not Logan's
40,
Run.
Yeah.
It was because most of the babies died because people were like, oh shit, what do we do?
Right. And you died when you were young.
Yeah.
That's when you're reckless and you get cut. And unlike now, a fucking scratch fucking killed you.
Yeah. So the fact that civilizations across, I just said across like a fucking dingus.
Want to go get some espresso?
Globe, people were fucking smart enough to look at the sky and realize that solstices were significant. I mean, look at Chichen Itza. I mean, that's fucking amazing what they did.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like the stuff that people did. But again, factor in the fact that they had infinity time and not a lot of other shit weighing them down.
Right.
I'm going to make
else going on.
But now, just to go on a little tangent about Chichen Itza, the guy that had thought of it, how the fuck did he explain it to everybody? Because he had to they had to go, well, yeah, no, we've got to build a temple. And like, was it in the original specs or was it like a change request? Was the guy like, oh no, it'd be fucking.
We got scope creep.
Wait, before you start actually building it, wait a minute, maybe we need to turn it a little bit. How did you? But that's the other piece of it. How do you fucking test it? Like, if you fuck it up, you have to wait a literal year before you can test it again. Well, can we start on the project? Nope. You sit right where you are and wait but again, infinity time.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure they had the idea of about how many days a year was. Like, I'm sure they had a calendar.
But yeah. I'm not saying they didn't know when it was going to happen. I'm saying that if you're going to fucking go, well, on the solstice, the shadow of a snake is going to creep up the side of my temple, and only on the solstice, how do you practice? Like,
right.
That's the part that fucking drives me nuts about that one. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about the Serpent Mound, which doesn't do any of that shit. It just lays there on the ground and it looks at the sun.
Yes, it does.
And that's all it fucking needs to do. And it doesn't matter why they made it. To me, why they made it makes no fucking difference whatsoever. Like, it doesn't matter. The fact is that they had the idea. The community got together and said, all right, well, instead of doing all this important work over here, we'll put these guys in charge of building the dirt snake. Like, so they were socialized to that degree, you know what I mean? Which makes everybody fucking jump to, oh, it must be religion. The only thing that would get people to build a dirt snake is the fear that if they didn't, the dirt snake would eat them. And I don't think that's necessarily true. It could very well be true, but I don't necessarily think so.
I can't think of any other reasons why you would build something like that.
But why did people do any of the shit they do?
For religious reasons. Well, think about every other big site, whether it be the pyramids or Stonehenge, Göbekli Tepe. They were all like temples or burial sites or something like that.
Well, burial sites I get. And there are lots of burial mounds. There's tons of burial mounds.
This was where we hung out and watch TV. Like, there's none of those.
Yeah, no, but I mean, I just say I'm leaving the door open for people to go, hey, you know what? That shit kind of looks like a snake. I'm going to make it into a snake. Well, why would you do that?
Maybe it was an obstacle course.
Maybe it was just art. It could have been art.
Could have been art. That's the only other thing I can imagine it being.
Because no one's going into the fucking caves and looking at the drawings and going, these must be prayers. No, someone saw and actually, here's something fucking wild, and I can't think of you know what? We'll do it on another thing about cave.
You can't fucking say that and not say it.
It's about cave drawings, but it's neat, and I don't want to spoil it. So just stay tuned. Well, not to this episode, but later, and I'll explain it. Anyways, we got this Serpent Mound, and it's really neat, and you should look it up, and you should see how archaeologists kind of fucking bicker back and forth about, when it was made and everything like that. And remember that the people that were here before Columbus got here were fine. They had time to make a Serpent Mound. Like there was no fucking problem. And
yeah.
Then 1,000-something years later, the fucking History Channel makes a show. And sweet Jesus fuck, I hate this guy so much. Now, do I think that probably it was because he knew that he was making a fucking show and that he wasn't gonna, I don't even know how to put it. He wasn't being sincere. He just had to fucking spin out his show, maybe.
Right.
But his name is Scott Walter, and he was on this show called America Unearthed, which is the first thing that comes up on YouTube when you search for Serpent Mound, which goes to show you that algorithms mean absolutely nothing, because there's a million other videos of actual archaeologists telling you stuff about Serpent Mound.
Right.
And honestly, if you were listening hoping for a bunch of really dry facts about the Serpent Mound, you're not getting them, because I already told you what it was, and nobody actually knows why it was there. But if you want to know the fucking longitude and all that kind of shit, there's plenty of places to find it. We are instead going to shit on Scott Walter and his stupid show, America Unearthed. Now, I didn't watch any of the other episodes because I was so mad by this one that I didn't want to look at anymore. Basically, he found out that there was an effigy mound in Scotland shaped like a snake. And and there's another one in Iowa, or at least there's another effigy mound in Iowa. There's actually quite a few. It's that whole Iowa Midwest area is where the effigy mounds all are. But anyway, the thing he would not shut the fuck up about this entire episode was, well, I think that the people from Scotland came over here and shared stuff with the people here. This fucking stupid ass appealing to dum-dums that, oh, well, no, these Native Americans couldn't have been fucking smart enough to pile up some dirt in the shape of a snake. They needed fucking druids to come over. And the other part about it was he actually said in his show that there was already a natural sort of snake-shaped formation where the one in Scotland was. So if anything, what would the Scottish people have done? Come over and said, well, first you got to do is find some ground that looks like a snake.
Find a place that looks like a snake.
Yeah. Then it was like in Transylvania 65000 when Ed Begley goes, what about that story I wrote about people who look like their pets? And Jeff Goldblum goes, no, you just found people that look like animals and gave them pets. Like that's all. The fact that it's so disingenuous, it's so fucking dumb. I feel like these things have to be connected. And that's why I get so mad about Graham Hancock, because you can look up Graham Hancock. If you don't know who Graham Hancock is, if you watch any type of documentaries about ancient cultures and ancient buildings or anything like that, I'm almost positive that his fucking head is going to pop up in there somewhere. And he wrote this book that was pretty famous about how fascinating it was that it was called Fingerprints of the Gods. That was his book. And it was 1995 that he wrote it. And I remember it being a big deal even at the time when he wrote it. But the fact of the matter is that basically his point was everything that everybody built on the ground in olden times matched up with something in the sky. It was the marriage of the earthbound and the heavenly. But again, infinite time, nothing to look at but the sky. And he said that the three pyramids, the three big pyramids in Egypt, the famous ones, match up with the stars in Orion's belt. Then he was going on and on about how in Angkor Wat, if you just take this constellation and you take these buildings in Angkor Wat, it matches perfectly. Well, sure. If you ignore the other fucking 85 buildings, you goddamn dummy. That's like saying you could put, oh, well, you know, if you look at Manhattan and you only use these buildings, it spells out go Red Sox. Like, who cares? It doesn't matter. Like, you can't do it that way. So
right.
The fact that more than one culture figured out things only look like this once a year, and that's significant because also not for nothing, it's either the longest day of the year or the shortest day of the year, which how long the day was mattered a whole bunch when you lived kind of outdoors even when you were indoors. So that shit was significant. So all this fucking nonsense about, well, how could they have thought of the same thing at the same time? Well, because how was there another fucking guy who got beat out by Alexander Graham Bell to patent the fucking telephone?
Yep.
Like by a few hours. Because when it's time to figure shit out, people figure shit out. Like you stack up enough knowledge behind it, that's just what happens.
That's the thing. Because in all of these in all the modern cases, that's exactly what it is. You see, they're building on the shoulders of the people who came before them,
right?
And they all have the same shoulders to build on,
right? And it's no different when someone goes, well, you know what, my fucking grandfather wrote down, you know, when all this shit happened, and there's this one rock, and he put it like you could. I don't know. Here's a little side tidbit before I get into the last things that are going to make me mad. If you want to figure out how tall a really tall tree is, and you're able to do this because you probably don't have a tape measure long enough to measure a big tall tree, but stick a stick in the ground so that there's only 1 foot of the stick above the ground, right? Then wait for the shadow of the stick to be 1 foot long, and then measure the shadow of the tree. And then you'll know how tall the tree is. Yeah. You're not going to tell me that somebody 2,000 years ago couldn't have come up with that. You know what I mean? Like just sitting and looking at the shadow, getting different lengths and everything. Like you had nothing to do. If you had already eaten and done your fucking work for the day, looking at a stick, not a bad gig. Anyways, Native American people made the Serpent Mound. Why they made it, basically none of our business. Doesn't matter. It needs to stay the way it is. All the effigy mounds.
I'm assuming that there is nobody left.
No, of course not. Of course not. So now there's the according to the National Park Service, who introduced me to an entirely fucking new way of measuring time that I had never fucking heard about until I read this. The late woodland period, 1400 to 750 BP. BP.
What's that?
BP stands for before the present.
Oh, shit.
Yes. But
that was a guess.
But since that's kind of a moving target, they were like, okay, well, we're just going to say the present is 1950. So, okay, now I got to do a bunch of fucking math. Like, that has nothing to do with what year it is now. Like, it just seems...
Yeah, it
just seems mean.
It's just dumb.
Anyway, they said, along the upper Mississippi River and extending east to Lake Michigan, it's associated with the culture known today as the effigy mound builders. It was a regional cultural phenomenon. They made birds, bear, deer, bisons, lynx, turtles, panthers. We have a serpent. Serpent is the big one. And our serpent, Ohio's serpent, is the biggest serpent one that exists on the planet. But everybody knows they existed. But honestly, even the National Park Service had... Some archaeologists believe they were built to mark celestial events or seasonal observances. Others speculate they were constructed as territorial markers or as boundaries between groups. But nobody fucking knows. Nobody has any fucking idea.
It seems an odd shape for a wall between two peoples.
Yes. Now, the other thing that you mentioned, you can only see it from above. That would mean that anything built on the ground, if you didn't have a drone, would never, like, they were just shooting in the dark. And that's another one of these.
They had, like, that they had skills, but I'm saying you couldn't verify that it looks right. Like,
well, I mean,
yeah, you can, like, obviously, they didn't do math the way that Europeans and the Arabs created math that we do. But no. I'm sure they had ways of figuring all this stuff out. They didn't have Euclid, but I'm sure they had somebody like them.
Yeah. Now, like the best and worst example of you can't see it except from above is Moosehead Lake in Maine is named such because the Native Americans said that that's what it looked like. And I don't know what kind of fucking squinting you have to do. If you look up Moosehead Lake,
I'm going to look it up now.
Knock yourself out and try to figure out how it looks like a moose. I guess. I don't know. But this snake thing, I mean, look at it this way. And this is my point for, I'm going to use it specifically for Serpent Mound. I'm not going to use it for Nazca lines because Nazca lines are so fucking big that it doesn't, I mean, going and looking at, I can see 20 feet of this line that's actually a spider. Like, that doesn't make any sense. If you're going to go in a helicopter so that you can see the fucking majesty of what they did and then wonder about how the fuck they did it. But the fact is that if you only could appreciate the Serpent Mound from the sky, then why is there a park where you can just walk around on the ground? Why wouldn't they go, oh no, it's useless to go that way. You have to look at these big scaffolds that we built because that's the only point in seeing it. Because it's not. You can tell what it's a snake from the ground. So,
yeah, I guess.
You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
History Channel, let's recap. History Channel sucks. Any fucking person that says that anything that was done in a place that was not Europe was done because Europe influenced them, fuck off.
They're just being racist.
Because if anyone was getting alien help, it was those motherfuckers that built those cathedrals that have the acoustics of, like, impossible fucking acoustics.
Yeah, like a 21st century arena.
Like
a music hall.
And there's one, and I can't think, and maybe we'll do an episode on it, but there's one that the way it's built actually echoes for the right amount of time for the fucking chants that they sang at the time the cathedral was built. Like, it was built like for that.
Right.
And they figured out how to make the fucking cathedral echo that way. And that's another one where you don't get a practice cathedral. You know what I mean? Like if you're gonna spend, I don't know, your entire life working on this fucking cathedral and it doesn't echo right, you're gonna be in a bunch of trouble.
Right.
But no, those were just smart guys. It couldn't possibly have been aliens that did that. You know what I mean?
Well, that's what they say about the Nazca lines too.
Annoying
All aliens.
bullshit. Of course they do, because we
Mayans
can't
are
figure out how they
aliens.
do.
Incans are aliens.
Yeah, everybody that's not European had to have been an alien, because what the fuck?
Right.
How could they have possibly done this? They're not
Easter
us.
Island.
Right.
The fucking druids figured shit out. You fucking kidding me?
Well, they did find out that in Stonehenge, and we've never done Stonehenge. I don't even know if we're ever going to do Stonehenge, because honestly, they found out recently that 2 of the big rocks were already there. So they were like, all right, well, I guess we'll do it here then. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
well, we did the Georgia Guidestones, which is America's Stonehenge.
Right. But we know people did that on purpose.
That's true.
So then I was looking at mounds in general, and then in like specifically effigy mounds in the United States. And here's a fucking crazy ass story, because we're just going to have 2 fucking stories that are going to make you shake your head and sigh and probably get a little bit mad. So there was a guy named Thomas Munson, right? Good old Tommy Munson. He was the superintendent of
Team Money, we called him.
Yes. Yes, they did. He was caretaker of Effigy Mounds National Monument, which is not it's not the Serpent Mound.
Ohio.
Serpent Mound's all by itself. This is the Iowa one. I think it's Iowa. Anyways, yeah, it's Cedar Rapids. It's Iowa. He started working for the National Park Service in 1964. And he worked his way up to become superintendent of the Effigy Mounds Monument in 1971. So his entire job was to have this fucking ground that literally was just sitting there, just maintain the status quo. Like, don't let somebody build a parking lot, or you know what I mean?
Bulldozers in.
Yeah, don't let Superman scoop it up and throw it at General Zod. Like, there's like, it's a pretty fucking tit job if you think about it. So, what this fucking asshole do? On or about July 16th, 1990, Munson carried a box of human remains from the monument's curational facility to his car and directed a subordinate to do the same. He then drove the stolen remains home and hid them for more than 2 decades. When the boxes were finally recovered, investigators found that several of the human bones were broken or fragmented beyond recognition. Now, as part of his sentencing, and he was sentenced, because he was old by the time they caught him. They didn't catch him till like 2016 or some shit like that. But he had to do like weekends in jail. Like, it was some fucking dumb. So, but he also had to write an apology letter
to the mound.
To all Native Americans, particularly to the tribes associated. Listen to this fucking guy's letter, and then recognize the fact that although I was getting so mad that I couldn't dig too deeply into it because I was just getting madder and madder, there's no explanation as to why he did what he did. He just did it. Nowhere did they say he tried to sell them or anything like that. He just says, I deeply regret and I am unilaterally sorry for the events surrounding the misappropriation of Native American human remains by me. I apologize wholeheartedly. while I inappropriately stored these human remains in my garage, in garbage bags, inside cardboard boxes without temperature, humidity, or other environmental controls for years, please understand that I did nothing else to deliberately harm them. What?
That's it?
No, but I just... What? Why did he...
Well, I mean, as far as, yeah.
These human remains came primarily from the collections of Effigy Mounds National Monument. Despite being employed to protect the monument and having a responsibility to guard these remains, I knowingly removed these items from the monument and hid them for over 20 years. By doing so, I delayed the repatriation and interment of these people. I did what I did in a mistaken effort to avoid the obligations imposed by NAGPRA. I am now profoundly sorry for doing so. I apologize also to my many Native American... Now, this is the part. So I had said that I didn't know why he did it because I got so mad reading his letter that I didn't finish reading the letter because I'm a fucking terrible researcher. But apparently, NAGPRA is the Native American Graves Protection and Repatriation Act, which...
So he didn't want to deal with all of that because they found remains, so he fucking hit them.
Yeah. He's like, yeah, I don't want to fucking deal with a bunch of people.
That's a lot of paperwork.
Fucking bothering me.
Have people crawling all over this place. Oh, fucking A.
So he says, I apologize also to my many, and here's what, honestly, it makes it all okay. I apologize also to my many Native American friends with whom I went to school, played with, competed in sports with, attended school events with from day one through college and graduate school. Please remember me as you know me and not for what I have done. Regards to all of you, go with God. Okay, saying that you have Native American friends does not take away stealing their ancestors' bones and sticking them in your garage because you didn't want to do extra work.
Right.
It also begs the question, why did he keep them then? Like, what? There had to have been a part of him to be like, well, I don't want to fucking jinx myself by, like, pulling a fucking poltergeist and, like, getting rid of the bones or throwing them in the trash or something like that. So I'll keep them in this box, in this garbage bag. But, like, what the fuck? And all day, every day, he was probably sitting in the fucking visitor shack with a shitty VHS tape explaining over and over how horrible what he did was.
Right.
That'd be a fun movie, actually. All right, so what have we learned? Serpent Mound is really cool. Indigenous people in America were pretty dope and could make cool stuff like Serpent Mounds. History Channel sucks. Aliens didn't do dick. And Thomas Munson is a lazy fucker. But he's not the worst person in the story.
In the episode, yeah.
Nope. Because we've got quite the fucking contender for that crown. I gotta take a deep breath on this one. Because oh baby. Let me make sure I have the right. Here's the fucking winner of the week. We're going to Cincinnati.com for this little tidbit, and it is completely germane to the Serpent Mound.
Cincinnati.com. Is it about Jerry Springer?
No. I like to think that Jerry Springer would have come down on the right side of this fucking travesty. Deputies were called Sunday when a Christian prayer group and Native Americans faced off Sunday at the Great Serpent Mound, the Native American National Historic Site in southern Ohio. The Native American leader who was there said they were trying to protect a sacred site that belonged to their ancestors. The leader of the prayer group says the mound is a place where dark energy is released into the world. I'm not calling the Indians dark. Dave Daubenmire told the Inquirer. This has nothing to do with the Indians. Daubenmire leads Past the Salt Ministries out of Hebron, Ohio, about a 2-hour drive from the snake-shaped mound, which could have been built as long ago as 320 BC. Led by Daubenmire, the group was there on the winter solstice, quote, praying down the satanic serpent mounds, unquote, according to the group's YouTube video recording the event titled Pagans Try to Prevent Prayer. Videos posted by both groups show the encounter. Members of the American Indian Movement of Ohio, including the group executive director Philip Yenyo, heard about the plans for the event in advance and met the Daubenmire's group in the parking lot. You need to leave. You have no right and no business doing this on this sacred site where our ancestors are buried, Yenyo said in the video. You're not going any further. A man began approaching Yenyo, repeatedly telling him not to touch him. The man appears to push Yenyo, who is blocking his path. Someone says, get out of my way last time I tell you. Don't tell me to get out of the way on my own land, Yenyo said. It's our birthright. It's our sacred site. Here's where it gets fucking particularly delicious. It's public land, Everybody, I don't care. Tell somebody this story tomorrow after you hear it. Just tell somebody this fucking sentence. It's public land, a member of the prayer group said. This land will be taken in the name of Jesus. The land was already taken a long time ago, Yenyo said. You people keep taking it. The prayer group made their way past Yenyo and Native Americans and began praying at the mound. At least one member of the prayer group climbed onto the mound and was asked to get down by a staff member at the site. The land is owned by a nonprofit. Because remember, the Ohio history thing is a nonprofit, but it's private. It's not a federal thingy.
It's not the government, yeah.
We welcome all beliefs and all ceremonies, but we do ask you to stay off the sacred mound, the woman said. The leaders of the group complied. On Monday, the Inquirer interviewed Yenyo and Daubenmire. It's a sacred site for us, but other people with other faith beliefs think they have the right to go there and do their ceremonies. In our opinion, they don't. Yenyo said it would be like me going into a church and doing my ceremonies in that church, disregarding and disrespecting their beliefs. Yenyo of Cleveland said that people with New Age beliefs and Wiccans also practice unwelcome ceremonies there. There's still people buried there. The whole place is sacred. That's a problem with Ohio. There's no teeth and no bite to any protections for these sites. So then they talked to the Jesus guy. He said his group just came to pray and didn't know that Yenyo and other Native Americans would be there. There's a series of mounds like this all across the Midwest. We believe that these are, for lack of a better term, we believe these are dark places. I'm not calling the Indians dark. This has nothing to do with the Indians. We went there because we believe dark energy is released there. He said the winter solstice is the darkest day of the year. For those in the occult, I'm not calling the Indians the occult. It's a high holiday. We went there to pray over this area. We believe the dark side holds ceremonies on these days. So this was in 2020. This was not.
Oh my God.
It was in 2020 when the guy said, we're going to take this land in the name of Jesus.
They already did.
Now, I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit if it's a fucking defunct Dairy Queen. You're not going to come and take any land in the name of Jesus.
Jesus doesn't want your land.
The last time you did that, look what the fuck happened. Because remember how, I don't know, Jerusalem is like part of Europe now? Oh, wait, it's not. Because you lost. Stop trying it. Right. Now, did they kind of win over here? Yeah, but whatever. It's a long game. Anyways, that little sentence. And also the fact that there's a picture of the guy saying that the land will be taken in the name of Jesus talking to the Yenyo Native American guy. I'll give you one guess which one's wearing a mask. Any hoodle.
It's like this, all I can think of is that fucking kid in DC. couple of years ago. Remember that?
What?
Where the kid was like staring down some Native American guy doing like his.
Yeah. It's great. Anyways, look, we're gonna do stories that are going to illuminate people about Native American culture. I don't necessarily think that people need to have how shitty Native Americans were treated rubbed in their face every week. I'd rather try and elevate stuff, and not even from a standpoint of oh, well, you shouldn't just think they're stupid because look at all the cool stuff they did. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if they were the laziest motherfuckers that ever lived, and for some reason they just happened to all be born in a place where grapes grew constantly and they never had to go anywhere. They just rolled around and ate grapes. Doesn't matter. They were already here. Like this whole idea of deserving something, fucking no one deserves
my
anything.
whole thing is I always had the belief that, you just look through the history of mankind and, the stronger group wins, whether it be the Greeks or the Romans or the British or the Germans or the Russians or whatever. But the thing I like when I look at it now and I think about how it's different is that none of them called themselves the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Right.
None of them were created by a document that said all men are created equally.
Yeah.
But we were.
Yep. Yeah, but there was an asterisk. It was written in invisible ink.
Live up to that standard.
Nah.
Yeah.
So I encourage you, all of you that are on TikTok, and if you're not on TikTok, where the fuck you at? Because TikTok rules. Lance Tosi is his name. TSOSIE. Modern_warrior__ for some reason. He is. He knows a lot. He's really smart. He's funny. He loves to chase down Nazis and shit like that. So he's super fun. But you will get a bunch of people chasing Nazis around if you watch a bunch of his videos, because TikTok is really super great about, oh, you must like this and only this now. You know what I mean? Like TikTok does not really understand diverse interests very well. But anyways, I am very much looking forward to having some shows about some really, really neat shit. And some mysterious shit, too, about Native American culture. If anybody has any ideas or anything like that, you can reach me at Acadia on Twitter. But if you want all of our, allmylinks.com/strangeful things?
Hell yeah.
I remembered it.
You did. That was very good.
And you made it look nice.
I know.
And the little picture you put was the fucking Nub City guy punching that lady. That fucker.
Yeah. Ha! Oh, yeah, I've been really good at changing that picture. I was like, every week I'm going to change it to the picture for the episode. And
well, that's a great idea. You should do that. That's a great idea. Well,
no, I know, but I just don't do it.
Well, there you go. Anyway, you can come to the Discord and everything like that.
Yeah, you can do all that stuff. And while you're doing those things, make sure you keep on flapping.
Bye-bye.